All right, 3rd Platoon, I'm Lieutenant Pitts. Your PL for this mission.
Deep in the woods of central Minnesota, the Iowa National Guard is getting ready.
This is our north, south, east, and west.
Right now, about 5,000 National Guard soldiers from 8 states are undergoing intense, realistic training at Camp Ripley. This year is tougher than last year.
We're training them for combat, not because of anything that's going on in the world, but this is part of their normal training rotation.
The training soldiers at Camp Ripley are doing is called Exportable Combat Training Capability, or XCTC. Army leadership wants them to practice real-life scenarios against an enemy. This is where the mortars are held here at Camp Ripley, and later tonight, these men will begin an offensive mission.
Fire!
Specialist Seth Wilhelm of Dubuque says they're getting to practice with live rounds, something they don't often get to do back home.
It's hard to really understand how those missions work out when we are not using live rounds, but when we're using live rounds, it feels more like real.
Not everyone is in the infantry. Even soldiers whose job it is to prepare food have been sent to get realistic field training.
It's very different from drill, where we're just in the actual kitchen serving people, but here we have to set all of our stuff up in the field and it's a whole different environment. It's hot outside, it can be rainy, but here it's actually been pretty good so far.
Captain Tim Hadley of Old Wine is a chaplain. He says the conditions aren't always forgiving.
The mosquitoes, or small birds that we call them here, sometimes it'd be a little bit much. You're in the field 4 or 5 days. I haven't showered since last Tuesday.
While this year's training is tough, next year the intensity is getting taken up and the stakes will be higher. Members of the Iowa National Guard are heading to Louisiana, where they'll have to work with more units and companies from other states against more challenging scenarios. In Little Falls, Minnesota, I'm Connor Hendricks reporting. Every soldier has a different reason for serving. For Sergeant Austin Nelson of Fort Dodge, it's a family tradition.
My family served, my dad, my grandpa. My brother now is serving in the Iowa Guard. And just the pride we can take in that.
Brigadier General Derek Adams has been serving in the Iowa National Guard for 32 years.
I love it. I love serving. Serving gives me just a feeling of accomplishment, a feeling of contribution to something big and important, and it's just, I love being around soldiers. It's just great to serve.
Sergeant Madison Anderson of Cedar Rapids enjoys a few things about serving.
I love the benefits that they give us. Everyone I get to meet, they're like family. Everyone is very nice.
Hang it! Fire!
Specialist Seth Wilhelm of Dubuque is one of around 50% of soldiers in the Iowa National Guard who took advantage of the provided education benefits. He's almost at the end of his contract and isn't planning to come back. Still, he says his time serving taught him important lessons.
I feel like I grew up pretty quick. I joined when I was 17, so helped just kind of time management skills, just being able to get out there and make sure I got everything done in time. Just sort of like the work ethic, getting things done.
Captain Tim Hadley of Old Wine says his #1 reason for serving is the people he meets.
This fills my bucket, getting out here, seeing these people, seeing the awesome work that they do, the capabilities that we have, and knowing that we get to serve both our state and abroad. It's exciting. It's not work for me. Like I said, it's play, and I love every minute.
Hadley says he plans to keep serving until they tell him he can't or his body says he's done. In Little Falls, Minnesota, I'm Connor Hendricks reporting. 80% of Iowa soldiers in the National Guard serve part-time.
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't difficult.
Though the constraints on soldiers isn't as tough as an active duty soldier, Captain Tim Hadley of Old Wine says life still happens when they're away.
I just talked to a soldier this morning. His daughter took her first steps yesterday. He wasn't there, but he celebrated. He said, hey, I know it's hard, but I'm here. I'm doing the service that I signed up for, and I know when I come back, she'll be walking still, and we'll get to celebrate that.
Hadley's day job is principal of Old Wine High School, and he isn't getting much of a summer break.
Yeah, I never really left work, and that's okay, though. I don't mind it. Like I said, this fills my bucket, getting out here, seeing these people.
Hadley says managing the schedules between the two isn't always easy, but he has support to do both jobs.
I think just communicating with my employer, communicating with the Guard, super flexible. They understand citizen soldier. Sometimes they interlap, but a lot of times some of them work hand in hand. A lot of times the training I do as a soldier helps me as a civilian, and my civilian training's definitely come in handy out here.
Specialist Seth Wilhelm of Dubuque is studying industrial design full-time at Iowa State. Wilhelm is among the roughly 50% of soldiers in the Iowa National Guard who are working on a degree. He says it can be a challenge to balance school and service, but it's worth it.
It's a lot of balance with your teachers, letting my instructors know, giving them my whole drill schedule when I'm going to drill. They work with me pretty well on just like making sure I don't have like a really high workload on my drill weekends.
Even Iowa National Guard leaders wear many hats. Brigadier General Derek Adams works at the VA hospital in Iowa City, is land component commander of the Iowa National Guard, and is an operations officer for the United States 8th Army in Korea. He says it's a big mental transition to go from a civilian job on a Friday to serving on a Saturday.
Sometimes it takes a few days to really get into the groove, so to speak, knock off some of the rust from previous training, and remember, oh yeah, this is how we do this.
But Adams has found that groove. He's served now for 32 years and says that he still loves the job. In Little Falls, Minnesota, I'm Connor Hendricks reporting.